Okay, quick recap for those of you. Lightning talks are 5-minute talks that people have signed up for on the board out near the registration desk. They go for 5 minutes. That is strictly enforced by way of this timer just here. Please do not count down when we get to 10 seconds, despite whatever compulsion might urge you to do so. What we can do, however, is once we get to, say, 3 seconds or so left, do some micro applause like this. Can we do this to practice? Wonderful. And then when it gets to flashing red and says 0, burst into spontaneous applause such that you cannot hear the person speaking. Yay! Wonderful. People at the back running the AV, once you hear that spontaneous applause, please cut off their slides. So we have quite a number of talks to get through, so we're going to cycle through these relatively quickly. Our first presenter is Graham Dumpleton, who's going to be telling us about parallel processing in the cloud with Jupyter. Start now.
Okay. This is a live demo, so you can play on visually. I'm going to spin up a Jupyter Notebook instance here, which happens to be using Python. I've already started it. Now my screen. Okay, I'm going to start this up. I'm going to give it a label because it's mine. I'll let it right. I'll later. Password. Everyone knows it. No one knows the URL, okay? You won't be able to exactly what the password. No, use the password filter. Oh no, I'll use the other bit. Okay, so this is going to spin up an instance of Jupyter Notebook. It's on an OpenShift cluster somewhere in the US, which I think is running on Google Cloud Platform. I'm not exactly sure. So that's now spun up, my app's running. Now I can get in that. It'll probably take a minute to bring that up, but it will come up. In the meantime, I'm going to actually run up and add another thing. If you've used Jupyter Notebook before, you may have heard of SciPy Parallel. I'm going to run up a cluster here. And I've made a mistake. I need a magic number out of here.
That's the bit I missed off the end. So I've got my Jupyter cluster here. Again, I'm going to log in here with my password. And I will get this up. Problem is, over here you can't see the clock, so you have no idea how long this is going to take.
3 minutes 30 left.
I'm going to upload a Jupyter notebook. Is it uploading? Is it uploading? Okay, so it is working. Now, in the meantime, over here, I run up my cluster, and it is also run up. I now have an Python parallel cluster. I've got one controller and I've got one engine. I'm actually going to spin this up to 8.
Ooh.
Just like this. Now that's going to start bringing in all those extra engines. So if you're familiar with this, that's all registering with the controller. I have already 8 engines. I have now basically a system which has got a total of 10 processors running across, I don't know how many machines, probably 4. And I can just go in here and I can start going through here and it's showing up 8 engines. And I can just keep going down here. And it'll keep going down, 8 engines. And eventually I'll get down here to my task, which is going to run my task and give me a nice pretty graph. This one's just going to randomly, I guess, put data across this not in balanced one. There's my graph. I've immediately done my job across it, and I can just keep going. And this one happens to do a load balance view. So that, very quickly, in just a few minutes, I've spun up an IPython notebook instance. I've then gone and done an SciPy parallel cluster. You saw that I've spun it up to 8 engines, all very quickly, and that's all running with OpenShift. That's just something I'm playing with at the moment. If you're interested in that, come and talk to me.
Yay! And that there was an example of quite a good lightning talk because he didn't use the full 5 minutes. Efficient lightning talks are good lightning talks. Thanks, Graham. So up on deck over here we have Alexia Kolyarov. And here we have Kieran, who's going to be telling us about multi-node actor and horizontally scalable actors in Python. Please start. Don't clap them at the start, it's a waste of their 5 minutes.
Right, so straight into it. Erlang, who here is familiar with it? A quarter of the room. a lot of people here. Well, yeah, it's built on this methodology. It's actor model framework, very good for scaling out horizontally. So, yeah, pluses, scales, it's lightweight and it scales. Negatives, it's a little bit unreliable past 60 nodes. It's near on unreadable, and it's not Python. So, can we have OTP for Python? Oh, look, Pulsar, amazing library. Yeah. I lie, it does scale horizontally, but you need Redis backend, and I just want my peer-to-peer. So, over the course of the Thursday to now, kind of inspired by the IoT mini-conf, I wrote the whole EPMD system, which is the underlying layer beneath OTP in Python. So, yay, it works on a very stripped-down, jerry-rigged fork of Pulsar. It's got a lot of bugs, and that's the shell script I use to generate my docs. So, demo time. This is a little bit nicer than the actual package code itself, but we're pulling in the package, actor node link. Node link establishes a connection between nodes. So it's our first server, and when it receives a message, it just prints it out. Second server connects up to our first server and sends hello world, which the first server prints out. So hello world in OTP. Oh, live example. Let's hope it doesn't crash.
Press enter a few times. We can't read the top line of text.
Oh, cool. Yes, I am in the right directory. That's not very readable, is it? Does anyone know
Command plus.
Command plus? Cool. I haven't used a Mac in a while. So, oh, do have plenty of time. Cool, I can go through this. Right, goes through, written in the same framework, goes through list of numbers, pulls out the odd ones, and creates a actor from the even ones. That should be the expected output. And if we run that, woohoo. So it worked. Yes, that is the one that I was after. Cool. All right, so it's a little bit more. That's a little bit more detailed than the hello world example. Basically, we've got a
1 minute.
Yep. So it creates an actor. When the actor receives something, prints it out, and basically the actor's named Michael, so Michael says whatever message, and some cheesy movie quotes. No, I don't want to do that. Cool, that all works, and yeah, as you can tell from my directory list, I did have a few more examples, but as you can see, no output. Bugs. So that's the end of my demo.
Yay. So up on deck we have Sam, and here we have Alexi, who's going to be telling us about Git as Lego.
Hello.
Time to start.
Start? Yep. Okay. So I'm Alexei. I work at Concord, and I work with Git. And I wish I didn't have to see this. So I'll be telling you why. If you ever had these questions, then I'll try to put up a model which will help you answer this question, like what does the merge do? Someone rebased, help me now. How to get people not swear at my pull request. So we all make files, we put them there, and then we put them in version control. This is a lie. I will tell you more lies about Git, which are however convenient. So what we actually do is we put changes. We have an empty state at the bottom, and when we put, we commit some files, and we have a commit, which I'll represent as Lego blocks. We have more files, and we make another commit, which goes on top of the other commit. So now we have more files, and the blocks fit together, where that is the parent, and that is the next commit. They all fit together nicely, and that is your branch. You can have more branches which kind of go different directions, and then they diverge, and then you want to make sense of it, like you want to merge them, or you want to rebase them, or you don't even know, do I just accept my changes, please? This is not good. Yep, you can see this. Right. So if you want to make a merge, you just push a thing on top, which feeds both of them, and has some kind of container at the top. So you can see that you have to have some kind of changes that fits master on the bottom, and it has the shape you want, the files you want on top. And you have to have some changes that fit the feature and have the same thing on top. If you want to rebase, you just take that branch and try to put it on top of master where it does not fit. Git will help you put it there. And that commit will somehow put there, and then the next one doesn't fit. Cool. So let's assume that you've done it, but sometimes you all see in the manuals that tell you that you want an interactive rebase or something else. You want an interactive rebase, that what you're doing is this. Just rearrange everything and put them in some random order which you want, and try to make them fit. Of course, they don't fit. You get to resolve conflicts. If you're merging, you have to resolve conflicts 1 to get this one block right. If you're rebasing, you get to do it all the time for each block that you're trying to put on top of them. If you're squashing commit, someone asked me what squashing commit means. That's the easiest part. You have more than one commit, you get one commit. That's actually all. I hope this helps you understand what Git commits do and why merge, rebase, and anything works like they work. And I hope you don't do this. Thank you.
Oh. Thanks, Alexei, for your talk. Up on deck, we have Martin Schweitzer. And on my right, we have Sam Kittajima Kimbrell, who's going to tell us that we are not Facebook, except for those people in this room who are actually from Facebook. Sorry,
Yeah, apologies to
That's
those of you.
also okay.
All right, hi, I'm Sam. I work at Twilio. We're sort of big, but we are still not Facebook. I'll open this with a quote from Cal Henderson, which is 99% of websites are not in the top 1% of websites. This is Uber's new data storage architecture. It's called schemaless. The blog posts on it are fascinating reading, but inside of Uber, it's almost certainly something like this. They have a team of 12 engineers whose full-time job is to support this thing. You don't. So let's talk about what you should be thinking about, rather than how you're going to scale to 1 billion users. So first up, let's talk about picking technologies. Databases, web frameworks, metric systems, JavaScript frameworks. You can find an open source implementation for just about everything. Here's how you should evaluate them and pick one. Older tools are often better. They've stood up to the test of time, and every scar that they have from battle damage is a lesson you don't have to relearn. On the flip side, though, make sure you look at that project's commit history. Is it being actively maintained by people who are not the company that originally wrote it? The Big Name Apache Foundation projects are really the gold standard here. So Hadoop, Kafka, Lucene, ActiveMQ, all that great stuff. Security. How many CVEs exist for this project? How quickly were they patched? How hard is it going to be to roll updates if you need to? The project ecosystem. How extensible is this thing if you want to add new functionality? Do client libraries exist for your chosen language platform? Are people talking about this on Stack Overflow? And this is something I borrowed from Josh this morning. The out-of-the-boxiness. Like, what's the friction to get going with this thing? How is the first 30 minutes of when you install it with pip or when you download the package and install it on your servers? What does local development to get this thing look like? How do you test with it? Documentation. Does it exist? Is it up to date? Is it comprehensive? Is it discoverable? Do support contracts exist for the thing? Are there consulting companies? When your Postgres instance fails at 1 a.m. and you can't restore from your backup, you're going to want help. And finally, look for landmines in the licensing terms. For example, the GPL is actually incompatible with the terms on the App Store. So any library you use in your iOS app needs to be licensed under something else. OK, next, let's talk about infrastructure as a service. There are companies out there building hosted solutions for just about everything. To rattle off a few, and these are not endorsements, if you want metrics collection and monitoring, Datadog, Stackify, Rollbar, Bugsnag for capturing errors and logs, Travis and CircleCI for testing, and obviously GitHub and GitLab for source control. Everything you can pay somebody else to do is something you don't have to solve, build, and maintain yourself. And finally, a few closing thoughts. Your customers are likely to be more forgiving than you think. Your outages are survivable. Just communicate. Under-promise and over-deliver. They'll be even more forgiving if you haven't promised them 5 nines. If you don't know the math here, 5 nines is 5.26 minutes of downtime per year. And finally, please, 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 please think about disaster recovery before you have a disaster. Biggest question to answer here is how big of a failure do you need to tolerate? Are you okay with your service going down if Amazon loses 1 AZ? You probably should be. If Amazon loses an entire region, that's debatable. And test your DR plan before you have to do it under fire. You'll thank me later. Happy building.
Thanks, Sam. Now, for those of you who might think about doing a lightning talk tomorrow, you'll see that there's a board out there it'll have some cards on it around 8:30. There aren't any there. Please don't put new talks up there yet. But one of the cards suggests that you should probably put your name down along with your talk title. And I have another person who has kind of not put their name down. So if you were card number 6, you should come and, or should I just tell them what their actual talk was about, because they might not remember? We should do that? OK. So if your talk was VS Code for Python and your handwriting looks like this, you should come and set up. On my left here, we have Martin Schweitzer, who's going to be telling us about elegant string searches. And your time starts now.
OK, hi. This is a talk I gave at a Melbourne Python user group meeting about 4 years ago, and one of the organizers asked me if I'd actually give this talk again as a lightning talk. Problem was the first talk was about 20 minutes, so I'm going to have to speak really quickly now. OK, it starts off with a little problem I had. I was writing a little online game. It's where you have 9 characters, and you've got to guess the magic word. So if you look at those 9 characters, some people will immediately guess it. Here's a clue. So the word is chocolate. And the standard way of doing this is you go through the letters, you order them, you go through a dictionary. You've got a dictionary of words. You want to find out all the words you can make from the word chocolate. Let's say hotel, you sort those letters, really tricky. So then I was programming this. I was looking for an easy way out. And I remember this thing I learned in probably when I was 8 years old at school. I think everybody's learned it. It's called the fundamental theorem of arithmetic. If you've forgotten it, it says, every natural number greater than 1 can be written as a unique product of prime numbers. If you're still a bit uncertain, we can take a number like 1729, brownie points, if you know why I've chosen that number. And that's 7, well done, 7 times 13 times 19. And there's no other primes that we can multiply together to get 1729. We can try 23 or 11 or whatever. It's not going to happen. Fundamental theorem says no. Okay, 36 is 2 times 2 times 3 times 3. No other prime numbers are going to give you 36. So the fundamental insight that I had is if we think of each letter of the alphabet as a Scrabble tile, and we give each one a prime. So A is always 2, B is always 3, C is 5, etc. We go up to 26 letters. 101 is the 26th prime number. We take something like ABBA. 2 times 3 times 3 times 2 is 36. What this means is we can rearrange them anyhow we want. BABA will also give us 36. No matter how we arrange those letters, we'll always get 36. So that's fantastic. But the next thing that we figure is if we remove a letter, so we've got BAB, it's 18. And 18 will always be a factor of 36. No matter how many letters we remove, it will always be a factor. If we take a letter like D, which is 7, 3 times 2 times 7 is 42. No way will 42 ever go into 36. Fundamental theorem says so. Fantastic. So does chocolate contain cocoa? Let's use mathematics and Python to figure this out. So we take chocolate, 5 times 19 times 47 times 5 times using Python, trivial, it's that number. So what about cocoa? Well, cocoa is 5 times 47. Well, that's a much easier one. It's 110,450. So if 110,450 divides into the top number without a remainder, well, let's use Python once again. Find the remainder when we divide it. 0. We have used Python to prove that chocolate contains cocoa. So basically, I wanted to write a program that does it. I used prime numbers. This is the program I presented 3-4 years ago. And it was a bit complex, so I figured, hang on, if I use a dictionary, it's going to be much easier rather than taking the order of A and subtracting it or subtracting the letter. So I did that. That function says, given a word, return that number. Is that 1 minute? Mm-hmm. Fantastic. So much simpler program. Here's my final program. This works, and just to prove that it works, we will cat it. There it is, less than a page of code. And let's try running it. We use chocolate. They're all the letters that can be made from the word, all the words that can be made from the letters in chocolate. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Martin. I'm slightly hungry at this point. Don, right. I should write that on the card. So up on this side we have Katie. So if you can come set up. And Don is going to tell us about VS Code for Python. Your time starts now.
Yes. Hi, everyone. Anyone here who's using Visual Studio Code for Python development? Just few, just under 10. Anyone using Atom? Oh, a lot more. Okay, now if you're using Atom, I would strongly recommend you give Visual Studio Code a go. What is Visual Studio Code? It is very similar to Atom. It's a cross-platform editor for multiple languages. It's developed in Node.js. And by the way, it's developed by Microsoft. So that's why it's called Visual Studio Code. It supports multiple languages, C#, Python, JavaScript, C++, and a couple of others. Now, out of the box, what you get is support for Git, support for, you get IntelliSense, colorization, and plenty of those things. Now, what I would like to present is using this editor along with the plugin that I've built for Python development. Now, as I mentioned earlier, I would suggest you give this editor a go because if you're using Atom, you will find this is far more powerful than Atom. Why? Let's have a look at the features of this particular extension. Now, if you look at Python extension, it supports linting, it supports IntelliSense, auto-indenting, code formatting, code refactoring, rename, extracting variables. A couple of other features such as code navigation. You can find all of the references. You can view signatures. And something that Atom doesn't really support very well is debugging. Atom, I believe someone created an extension on Atom for debugging on Python, but that it's basically a wraparound PDB. And I know how well that works. Basically, it just sucks. So this one's a little bit more intelligent, if not a lot more. It supports, well, it supports pretty much everything you would need in when you're debugging Python. You've got multi-threaded debugging, stack traces, expanding values. You can do remote debugging as well. So you can debug Django, Flask applications. And now, apart from all of that, then there is support for unit testing as well, and snippets. So, as I mentioned earlier, this is something that is cross-platform. It's MIT licensed, open source. So, I know not many people like Microsoft, but this is open source and it is MIT licensed. So you can, if you don't like Microsoft, just fork it, build it on your own machine, and keep it to yourself. Now, the extension that I built is just geared towards Python development. Right now, it is the second most popular extension in the market, and it's been only there for just under 6 months, and it's up to over 300,000 downloads. So, if we were to just have a quick look at the features, you can see over here. I've just downloaded some source code just from online, just to show some of the features. You've got import, and you put in sys dot. You've got all of the IntelliSense. That's fine. Yes, Adam has that, and PyCharm, all of the others. So what you have is, there you go, linting kicks in, and you get to see all of the details. For instance, if you've got errors, you just type in some garbage. You can see the error messages as well. So let's ignore that. Whoops. You've got code navigation too. Code navigation across the file, within the file. For instance, you want to look at max price, you can go to the definition. Go to definition. There you go, and then it goes to line number 18, because that's where it's been defined. If it was across multiple files or across packages, that would work as well. Let's have a look at...
1 minute.
If we were to have a look at debugging, I think that's where this really outshines most of the other editors, because it is really powerful. You can see debugging in here, and on your left-hand side, you can see all of the values. You can expand on the values. And obviously, it supports breakpoints. And yes, so this could go on, and we could, as I mentioned, you can debug Flask, Django, multiple applications, Google App Engine as well. So where's it going forward? Well, Microsoft are really interested in this plugin, so there's plenty of support from Microsoft as well. And I'll be extending it to support debugging of applications in the cloud, Amazon, Google+. Alrighty. That's it. Thank you.
Okay. So over this side, we have Jeremy Epstein. If you could come and set up, please. And, is this an ad?
No.
Okay, good. It's not an ad. That would be a problem if it were, because we don't like ads here. But it's not an ad?
This is a post-conference report.
Oh, excellent, excellent. Okay, well, sounds like you're talking. So Katie is talking about KDConf.
Hi, I'm Katie. Who here has heard about KDConf before now? That's awesome. Okay, so KDConf is a small conference that I ran a couple of weeks ago. We had 2 tracks and 38 different speakers. We had a K track and a T track. It was amazing. The purpose of KDConf is we had a conference entirely dedicated to speakers who were called Catherine, or Kate, or Kathy, or Karina. We do promote diversity. Your name could start with either a C or a K, as long as it was from the root Catherine. We had a lot of amazing speakers, including some names familiar to this community, including Kathy Reed, Katie Bell, who's here, Katie Cunningham, Kate Chapman, and Catherine Pierce. We also had Astro Katie, which is awesome. We had Katerina from NPM. We also had Beer Ops. Oh my gosh. We had a nuclear engineer professor, Kate Huffey. It was amazing. We had a whole lot of different topics going on. We had robots, DevOps, security, aliens, poetry, and automation. Held it out in Catherine, small town in Northern Territory. And this was all a couple of weeks ago on June 31st. 30 days has September, April, June, and November. Yeah. I am not sorry for this at all. Not a lot of people actually read the website and scrolled right down to the bottom that said that KDConf was a parody. There were a few people that were really upset that I didn't actually do this, including Swift on security. But the thing is, I also had people on the internet ask, well, why don't we do a Dave conf or a Steve conf? And I just said, well, go to any other conference. I've attended conferences with absolutely no female speakers. I've been the only female speaker at a conference, and I've been pulled into the last minute to try to improve their image, and that's not the point. The point is, people of different genders have very different life experiences and career experiences, perspectives on what they've done and what they can do. A greater range of topics and framing is more valuable to everyone. Karina De Souza, who did the keynote at PyCon last year, wrote that, and she's absolutely right. There have been so many amazing talks this week, and I mean, even just today in the last couple of days, and there's going to be even more amazing talks, and it's because of everyone's different experiences that we can all learn from each other. This year, there are about 20 to 25% of the talks at PyCon AU are by female speakers. At PyCon US, it was 40%, same with DjangoCon US. DjangoCon Europe was 52% female speakers, and that is fantastic. And I think that we need to do that stuff. The Django and Python communities get this right, and I wish that more people listened. Real-world effects. There have been talks about running an AnaConf and a SarahConf, but JessConf is a thing that's going to be held on Jessie Island off the coast of Queensland on November 31st, 30 days. This is run by Jess Frazzle, previously of Docker, now of Google, which is absolutely fantastic. However, PyCon UK have got a £500 scholarship dedicated to KDConf speakers or people called Katie as part of their diversity outreach. And that is absolutely real, and it's fantastic. So, how much time do I have left?
1 minute, 25, 24, 23, 22.
That was KDConf 2016. KDConf 2017 has been submitted as a Linux Conf Australia mini-conf. We're planning to have an entire day full of speakers that are called Catherine, including this year middle names, Jacinta Catherine Richardson and Lana Catherine Brindley, who you may know, are helping me run this, and if we get accepted, it's going to be awesome. LinuxConf is going to be run in the middle of January next year. Go to the website linux.conf.au. It's going to be awesome. There's a Twitter handle, there's the website because XYZ domains were cheap, and also Callback Women is an amazing service run by Karina who publishes and publicises female speakers and conferences who promote diversity in their speakers. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you for that talk. And I think if you can run an entire conference filled with people named Katie, there really should be no excuse for not having at least one woman per session in every talk at every conference. And it should be something we should be aiming for, hopefully even greater than that. Now, card number 11 has again failed to put their name on the thing, and sounds like they're talking about an IDE again. This seems like a... so if you're talking about Cloud 9 IDE, come and set up over here. And over here we have Jeremy Epstein, who's going to be telling us about putting all the bits on PyPI.
Okay. So, hi, I'm Jeremy. I'm from IRS. And yes, take more bits out of your code bases and put them ideally on public PyPI. If you've never heard of it, PyPI is the thing that pip install goes to look for things to install pip packages from. So ideally put things on PyPI, or if you really can't, are not allowed to, etc., you can even create your own private PyPI in your organization or whatever. So most code bases are bigger than they need to be. Most code bases have bits of code that are general utility things that could be reused in future. So ideally, they could be taken out and put in separate packages. So just want to quickly give some examples. Last year, on a project I was working on, I went through a bit of a craze of componentizing the project, of pulling out bits and putting them in separate packages. So just want to say it's not that hard to do, and it has benefits, and if you have time at the end of a project or at the end of a iteration or whatever, you should really think about doing it. So here's an example of a project, a little utility thing that I put up on PyPI. It's got a corresponding GitHub repo. Is it that useful for other people? It's for this app I was working on last year called Sinpla, and it's just for putting NVD3 graphs in. Maybe it'll be useful for other people. Other people can now fork it if they want, can now just install it with pip install if they want. I think that's cool. So if you're not able to put things up on public PyPI, I didn't know this before I tried it. Maybe not everyone here knows it, but you can actually create your own private Python repo and configure pip to point to it and install your own private pip packages. If you're interested, I've got a little guide that I put up as a gist on GitHub. There are other instructions about how to do it. Really recommend it. So why do this stuff? Yeah, smaller code bases are better code bases. If you're creating a bunch of different Python code bases that use the same functionality, you can just, in each new project you're working on, pip install this utility, done. Here's another one called S3 Saver. Might be more useful. It's up on GitHub and PyPI as well. I wrote a blog post about it last year as well. Read it if you're interested in this stuff. It's got a cool picture of a snake, a python. It's got a picture of Lego blocks as well. Splitting stuff up into components like Lego blocks is cool.
1 minute.
And that's about it.
Okay, I just need to look at your badge to see what your name is. Okay, now I can introduce you. Over on this side, we have Hawkey, if you could come and set up here. And on this side, Samuel is going to tell us about how, no, we can't install Python in browser development using Cloud9 IDE.
I had some funny slides about, stuff, but the important thing is I'm here to tell you about something that I've been using for all of my development for about 12 months. It's really cool. It's called Cloud9 IDE. I had joke slides about how awesome it is to be working in an institute where you can run up a VM like today, and you can scrap it up and you can install stuff and you can have like a million IDEs, all you want. I didn't work in an environment like that. I worked in a very locked down environment. Cloud9 IDE is actually this really cool in-browser development suite where you can run a virtual machine on a cloud instance and actually interact with it through the browser. So that's basically it. It's really, really rad. It's really, really cool. You should check it out. It's basically one of the most insane pieces of tech that I've seen. You can have full control. You have Vim bindings, Emac bindings, a whole bunch of editor bindings, debug, everything in the cloud. It's cool. So there we go. And my computer died and I've lost my power. So if you see a power cord, please let me know.
Oh, that was the end. So I was busy looking at my phone. That was really quick. Thank you. On this side, Tony Breyer, please come and set up. And here we have Amber Brown, Hawkey, who's going to be telling us falsehoods that programmers have about
I've got it on the slide.
I can't see the slides. I have a card in front of me.
Okay.
Don't start yet. Hang on. Yeah, now you can start.
Okay. Hello, I'm Amber Brown, etc., 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 blah, blah, blah. So, identity. Who knows what identity is? So identity is basically a whole bunch of basically everything that makes up a person. Now, a lot of people have a regular identity that is sort of made at birth, and it doesn't really change. So who here in the room knows a transgender person that is not me? Okay, so about 75%, that's good. Okay, so who knows someone that is of a non-binary gender? Okay, good, less. Now, the thing is that, yeah, things change. So these are the components that people generally accept make up identity. So let's start with the name. So names change for these people quite often, or at least more than once, or once or more, generally. So for people that get married and then get divorced, or maybe get remarried, transgender and non-binary individuals, and people who work on a pseudonymous basis. Amber Hawkey Brown is not my birth name, and if you call me my birth name, I will yell at you a lot. So and when it's in systems that need to be updated, it really, really, really makes me sad. Generally, people think that this is a name. You have a first name, a middle name, and a last name. That is wrong. This is what it should be by Australian law. And, people think that, we can just get a name and we can just make it work everywhere, but no, names do not work that way.
That was alarming.
Yes. Now, this gets me riled up, sorry. But this is Australian common law here. You need a name, and as soon as you assume a name, it is your legal name. No exceptions. That is Australian law. Let's go with gender. Gender is not binary. Gender is not constant. For transgender people, it may be binary, it may not be. And gender, in most things, is something that you should not care about. Your service, there's like Uber for dogs, does not need to care about my gender. Pronouns also does not equal gender. Sex also does not equal gender, and we're not really sure what that is because, there's been research into this, and it's not as clear-cut as people think it is. Date of birth. Now, surely that can't change. Clerical errors happens to lots of people. Also, historical time zone changes. Nationality. Now, this seems relatively clear-cut, but countries merge and countries change and all of that sort of happens. Like, for example, Hong Kong. It's like if you were born in Hong Kong, you were, back in like 1980, you were like a British citizen, except now if you are, now you are probably also a Chinese. It's like for different countries that matter, different things happen. And you can't just assume that it will never change. So what does your application do wrong? Well, Django does names wrong by default. It has a first name and it has a last name. This is wrong. Facebook does names very, very, very wrong. In the case of requiring lots of transgender individuals to submit official ID as to that is their name. Now, for a lot of people, especially in countries that are hostile to that sort of thing, like the United States, they don't have that. They get gender sort of right. They have a text box. Also, Facebook say that they do treat transgender people better. They don't. They lie about it, and every year or so, they go, no, we're doing it right, and then they close a couple of people's accounts. So, Every Australian form does marriages wrong.
1 minute.
Because same-sex marriage should be a thing.
Oh.
The only way to fix this is to have people that can detect these things and have a diverse developer base. Don't think that you know. I don't know. You don't know. Only by collective, basically everyone, we can approach knowing. Now, what are the consequences if you get this wrong? Denying a person their identity, their true identity, is denying them of humanity.
She only has 25 seconds.
At every single level, no matter how small it is, you are denying them a part of their humanity. They feel excluded, they feel marginalized, and they feel upset. And you need to do it right and not make assumptions. Thank you.
All right, I think that was Amber Hawkey Brown, I think.
Yes.
with an important message. Over this side, Mitch O'Neill and Tony Breyer is about to tell us about his first Python and Flask project.
Okay, thanks for the introduction at the start of these talks, because I have to confess I'm a Delphi programmer. So there you are. And I am Green Tram Software. I'm the development team, tech support, authorship, webmaster, and everything else. So one-person business, been going 27 years, not here. I now live within walking distance of the convention centre. I come from UK, still sell back to the UK, and produce structural engineering programs that produce obscure stuff like this that I don't think even the users understand, which is a little bit worrying. A couple of years ago, there was a big worry on my part of everybody talking about tablets, mobiles, and the rest, where I wasn't in it, strictly a Windows person. So what to do about it? Building native applications, because my user base is measured in the hundreds and never will be massive, I didn't see as an option, because you'd end up with 3 people on that platform and a dozen on that, and the testing and development implications just wouldn't work. The next course of action, being a Windows programmer, was to investigate various ways of leveraging what I already had, turning the core calculation units of my desktop application into a CG application. The code then got laced with if-def web and if-def desktop, and it got worse and worse, and I abandoned that. Delphi ships with a platform for building web apps called IntraWeb. That's probably very good if they got somebody to do the documentation. Then I got desperate and decided that perhaps ASP.NET was the way to go. Fortunately, I didn't buy Visual Studio, but several ASP.NET book authors owe me a drink. And then my ISP wrote to me and said, because I had a little test app just to make things work, got in touch and said, we're not doing Windows hosting anymore. So at that point, a rethink was necessary. I'd done just a tiny bit of PHP. It does the e-commerce interaction on my website. But being a Delphi programmer with strict type checking, anything that lets you add an Apple II and the 4th of February and get an answer is seriously inducing therapy. And from somewhere, I don't know where, I got the idea of going down the Python route. And I realized at that point, before I did, that I needed to think about hosting, and came up with this. They didn't pay me to tell you. There's an outfit called Python Anywhere who do nothing but host Python websites, so I wasn't going to get any funny looks or anything. And they have been brilliant for me. The fact that they're a British outfit is beside the point. Then I'm being an old guy, I like books made of paper, so I strolled into Dimmocks, and strangely enough, for a CBD bookshop, they had this book, obviously with my name on it, developing web applications with Python, and that was just like, gee, this is what I need. And I don't understand how these decorators work, but I look at that and like, gee, I understand this works for me. And so a lot of hard work, because for 20 years I'd really just not learned anything very new, just more and more Delphi. So suddenly I had to get to grips with Python, Flask, I knew HTML, JavaScript, Ajax, and a whole load of other stuff. And thank you. This is the result, basically a web translation of what we have. Yeah, we've got a little project. Basically, it's JavaScript and Ajax on the client end, and the back end is all Python. And open a project. And we've got steel beams. And quick. Yeah, I know I'm running out of time. That wasn't the one we... Malcolm Turnbull says we live in exciting times. When I started nearly 30 years ago...
I really love these stories about how people have come to discover Python, and this has been another one of those fantastic stories that invariably come up during our lightning talks. Now, I've got to the yellow cards, which is very exciting because it means that the lightning talks in general have gone really, really quickly. Josh Dupre, you're up on deck here. But first, we have Mitch O'Neill, who's going to give us some high-risk demos. I expect. Start.
Cool. Hey, I'm Mitch, and I'm a bit of a maniac. So, like, you know, I say things in conversation like instead of calling it PyPI, I call it PyPI and things like that. Oh. I know. So anyway, today I'm going to do a demo. It's going to be a high risk. Maybe it'll work. I think it will work, but we're going to make it a bit tough. So what the stunt's going to be is I have my laptop here set up, and I've got some earbuds over there. And on one side of my CLI, I'm going to write some text. And what's going to happen is this text is going to be encoded into bytes, and my earbuds are going to send the signal at 19 kilohertz, and my microphone's going to pick it up. Why am I using earbuds for this? I'm a maniac. So that, yeah, the microphone will listen, and will decode the bytes back into text, and then on the other side of the screen, you'll be able to see the text show up. What's the application of this? Who knows? So it uses the PyAudio library. The PyAudio library is amazing. It integrates really well in a lot of different devices. There's the GitHub one. And on top of that, it uses a QuiteNet library by a contributor called Kate E, I guess I will call this contributor. And Kate E says about the project, QuiteNet is just a toy. Take a look at Minimodem or GNU Radio if you need something robust. This is a high-risk demo, so this is a perfect feature that we'll need. So it's a clean implementation. It's pretty simple. There's no error correction. There's no checksums and things like that. Things that in audio transfer we really, really like. This is the the keys that they agree on. So how you can just translate it into bytes, and they'll go back and forth. This is the encode and decode in QuiteNet. It's really simple but really amazing. And now it's time for the demo. Actually, you guys don't even need to be that quiet. It's just, if anyone's transmitting at 19 kilohertz, I guess maybe you should be quiet, but... Who's going to dog whistle? Yeah, so we'll start the send one, and we get a terrible warning, so that's a really good start. It's exactly what we want. And now, what's it called? Listen. Alrighty. So hopefully I'm going to type in something. Ooh. That's the QuiteNet library, and I'm Mitch, and that's the talk.
Well, has that? It has. Excellent. If anybody needed further proof that applause is completely incomprehensible, I think Mitch's demonstration has shown that to us. And
can you give any other presentation?
Can I punt till tomorrow? Oh, whatever.
This is my favorite part. Oh, yeah, Heidi Waterhouse, you should come and set up. Yeah, sorry, I was just enjoying this moment of slight schadenfreude. One of these happens at every set of lightning talks. No juice?
Well, it's not showing, so...
Oh, that's unfortunate. Perhaps you can find someone else's laptop and present it in a few minutes.
That's not going to work either.
Oh, okay. Well, that's unfortunate.
How much time do I have left?
Well, I guess at the moment that's a great opportunity to deal with some of the housekeeping that Richard told me I needed to deal with. I'm going to try to remember most of it because I didn't actually write it down anywhere. But at the conclusion of this, there will be the conference dinner. If you have a dinner icon on your badge, you are entitled to go to the conference dinner. Or a silver circle on your badge. If you have a silver circle on your badge or a knife and fork, then you're able to go to the dinner. There will be buses departing from just outside the Hilton Hotel, and you go downstairs, you take a right, and then sort of follow the edge of the plenary building around there. Hey? Oh yeah. Well, so we'll I guess we should just restart this timer because Heidi appears to be ready. And our last lightning talk speaker will be Juan Nunez Iglesias. If you can come and set up. In the meantime, Heidi Waterhouse is going to tell us about human indexing. Your time has started.
All right, am I on?
Yes.
Okay. Human indexing, or how I learned to stop worrying and love the tag. So this is a long quote. I'm not going to expect you to read it all, but it turns out that Kurt Vonnegut, in addition to being a really excellent technical writer, did some science fiction work. Did you know that? It's amazing. And he has this really beautiful bit in there about how important indexing is and how revealing it is. But I have to tell you guys, you are not doing indexing, you are doing concordances. Concordances are when you set your search engine to look for all of the instances in a word independent of its context. You're just looking for the word. There are large concordances that we use. The typical place we think of them is biblical scholarship. But really, this is what we've designed is an entire internet full of concordances and not indexes. There are a couple ways to organize a large pool of data, like a large unmanaged pool of data. One of them is taxonomy. I'm going to derive all of my things from Archive of Our Own, which is a really great fan fiction site. Do not go to it if you feel like you might violate the conference code of conduct. There are a lot of adult things on there. You can set it to search for PG and G-rated things, but be careful how you search that. Don't do it right now next to your neighbor. I'm just saying. So this is taxonomy, because what we're doing is saying, if you're looking for a fandom, you can look within this fandom for all the things that we have. We're organizing it from the top down. The other thing that we're using, and this is like librarianship battles that are raging right now and have been for a few years, is called folksonomy. And that's when you allow people who are your users to do tagging for you and identify your data and tell you what it is, because the wisdom of the group mind, right? And you get really awesome tags, and you can find a lot of sort of serendipitous and surprising things. Like, I found a fan fiction about Tony Stark as a grad school TA teaching programming. I'm looking forward to reading that one. It looks like it's clean. But the problem is, it's really easy to fuzz the system. It takes very little action by a bad actor to really screw up a folksonomy system. And so that's a problematic thing. So fan fiction has all these answers. We've invested in a volunteer position that we call tag wrangling, where people submit tags and then other humans look at the tags and make sure that they are not, in fact, slight but inaccurate duplicates of an already existing tag. Like that ever happens in programming, right? And they make sure that they're not like wildly inaccurate or offensive for the community standards. So this is a set of tags that somebody has created. The author has created some of them, and then there are additional tags that other people can add on. I think my favorite all-time Archive of Our Own tag is Odin's A+ parenting. So what does that mean for you as developers? Why do you care about fan fiction? Well, search is king. This is how we're finding everything, and I know it, and you know it. And it's not like we're looking in beautifully collated indexes anymore. But indexing is the power behind the throne, and you can change what gets indexed. And the way you do that is find out what your users actually say about your product, what do they actually call it, use meaningful synonyms for what you think of and what they think of and what might be in the middle, and add those to what you want them to find. Allow tagging, but only for trusted users. You want to be sure that you do not have bad actors in your tagging system, and if you do have bad actors, you want to be able to purge everything they ever did instantly. Because if you do not tie it to a user, a pseudonymous user, it makes it much harder to get rid of bad data. And the last one is value tag wrangling. Value the people who organize your data so that it's more useful and more findable for everybody.
Yeah, so we're getting to that point of the evening where I continue throwing out more pieces of housekeeping information for people. If you are flying out tomorrow and you need to store your luggage or other stuff that is a bit heavy with you, there is a free cloaking desk on the ground floor of the convention center. Go looking for it. I'm sure it's somewhere on the maps there. Final lightning talk for tonight is by Juan, who is going to... Oh, and Harriet? Oh, no.
She's a prop.
Oh gosh. Okay, so Juan, with assistant, who's going to be telling us about elegant SciPy.
Okay, hi everyone. So we wrote a book with Stefan van der Walt, who is at Berkeley and sadly could not be here. The first thing is that you can get it for free because O'Reilly had a free book promotion for the SciPy conference last July. So if you go to that O'Reilly link, you can get the book for free. Also, it's soon going to be open source, all of the book materials, or the book text rather, as CC BY and CND, which means don't sell it, but otherwise you can use it. And so you can use it for teaching and so on. All of it is written in Jupyter notebooks. So yeah, that makes it really easy to fiddle with the code and see how you do. Follow us on Twitter at ElegantSciPy for updates, because as I said, it's not yet out. We've been working hard to get that license to pull it out. And so we'll put updates on there. And also recent tweets show where to get the data. And the next thing is that we would like you to contribute some code because it's still in pre-release. If you know some cool code that uses the SciPy library, we would very much like to include it. So what's the book about? This is our...
Just to be clear, you are advertising the open source project and not the commercial book, right?
Is that...
okay.
Yes,
yeah.
yes,
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 I am.
Open source
yes,
project.
okay,
Great.
open source. Go to the free things.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is our epigraph. It's from the Rosie Effect, from the Rosie Project Trilogy, which you should read if you haven't. It happens here in Melbourne. So unlike the stereotypical wedding dress, it was, to use a technical term, elegant, like a computer algorithm that achieves an impressive outcome in just a few lines of code. So that's what the book is about elegant algorithms using SciPy. So here's, for example, an algorithm to do spectral layout of nodes in a graph. So that's actually a worm brain. All of the nodes near the top are the sensory neurons, all the things that the worm uses to sense the world. And at the bottom, you've got the motor neurons, which is how the worm, wriggles around and goes to find food that it's smelling and so on. And you can do that in a few lines of SciPy. I'll point out that we're using Python 3.5. I don't think people should be ashamed. I saw someone apologize for using Python 2 yesterday. I want to ask people, don't start new Python 2 projects. Python 3 is awesome. Almost all of the libraries, the big libraries, support Python 3 now. And as of 3.5, it's kind of the only language for scientific programming in Python because of the matrix multiplication operator, which makes linear algebra code just way, way nicer to work with. So these are some of the chapters in the book. And we specifically would like some more linear algebra and optimization, function minimization and so on examples. So if you know that, then get in touch with us through Twitter. And you can also go to that lower bit.ly link, and that has a GitHub repository where you can submit things through GitHub issues. Thank you.
So the last 3 cards I have are for people who have asked to present on Sunday. I'm going to be lenient and put your cards back up on the board because I'm nice. Thanks for all of our Lightning Talk presenters. It's been a wonderfully wide variety of different topics and really, really interesting things and really well presented. As always, the Lightning Talks here have a really high standard, so thank you for keeping them so.